All right, so we got a ODAWG intake manifold here that came in, and when it came in, found a couple things on it that were less than ideal and were not what we were expecting with this, and so wanted to point out and talk about a few of these things.
So this one's for a 6 liter. They do offer them for the 6.4, and I don't actually know what all else they do. But this particular version is one that does not accommodate EGR, so you get rid of that completely. There's no casting for the EGR valve. Um, and obviously no spot for the cooler, nothing like that. And so we have a factory intake manifold that we just so happen to be putting on another pickup that we can kind of show you to compare to.
Except for this one, I've already cut the tab off on the side of it where the EGR cooler mounts because ain't nobody got time for that. And this one, the customer already had a sinister delete on it, so pulled the intake manifold off for other reasons. And um, so yeah, this is what they look like stock with that tab on the side. Um, and then the EGR valve would plug into there.
And these both factory manifolds are a 05 and up. The 03s you'll see have a
Crossover in the
yeah.
rear. There'll be a cast part that connects the rear sections here, and the spacing on the EGR ports is different.
And so the deal with these is they're a completely new casting from this company. And the whole point is airflow, basically, and also to get rid of EGR.
Mm-hmm.
They do make these that do accommodate EGR, but they're all smooth and ported and all that kind of stuff inside. And so
Yeah.
we can show.
And the other thing that's interesting about these is that these bolt down to the engine in a different way. So they have much shorter bolts here that hold the intake manifold down. So if we compare that to what the factory one is, on the factory manifold here, the bolt actually goes all the way through the intake manifold. Um, and on the inside of the intake manifold, see if we can balance this. There's these like columns, if you will, that go through the intake manifold that actually disrupt the airflow. Um, where on the ODOG here, it's got really short bolts that go into the bottom of the manifold. And yeah, I guess if you want to open that up. And then hydraulic type plugs that go in the top here, like so. And so the inside of these passageways here is completely hollow. But this one here had a couple casting imperfections on it, and the machining's kind of rough right here on this guy. And let's see if I can kind of show this a little better. And so this bolt hole here is for the little metal tab that comes off the coolant line, and then these three here would be for the alternator mount. This one alternator mount here has actually got a huge, relatively speaking, huge casting void right in the middle of the threads there.
I think there's a couple in that one.
Is there really?
Yeah. It's hard to get it.
Oh yeah, sure shit.
Yeah, so those were the first couple things that I saw. And then I believe in one of these there's some. Actually, there's voids in that one as well.
Yeah, sure enough.
And then there was some shavings left over from cutting threads.
And I think it was this one, yeah.
I think so. And those are just little things, but I just, saw one thing and then kind of noticed another and kind of noticed another and kind of just gave it a good look over. And so where it bolts down in there, there's, what would you call that?
Well, so,
Kind of countersunk, but...
Yeah, so of course the manifold is cast, but then, different surfaces like these threads and what have you are then subsequently machined. And so I guess if we find a good one here.
I know there was one on the other side, but they're all slightly different. Some are worse than others.
Yeah. So there's a pretty decent one right there.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get a appreciation here from where the original casting was. And the casting is reasonably smooth on the inside of these things. It's nothing too crazy, but it is reasonably smooth. But then yeah, but then after they cast it, they machine that flat spot for the bolt hole there. And on a lot of these, it's like...
just lack of material or...
Yeah, and so when they machined out the flat spot, it oftentimes on here is not actually like a nice concentric round surface. And on one hand, this probably isn't not going to affect, like that one there is pretty decent. There's, 90% of the material there or something. But you see that one there has just got a whole section that's missing.
There was one that actually had a hole in there, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of all these little things added up for me, and so I talked with the company I bought it from. They got in touch with ODAWGS, and they sent me a shipping label. I'm going to ship this one back, and they're going to send another one out, and so we'll see how that goes. We've never, this is for my personal pickup, we've never ordered them for customers. It's not a common thing that people choose to spend money on, because the reality is the factory intake manifolds are more than adequate, up to, I don't know how much power you really need to be trying to make to justify one of these.
Well, and your purpose wasn't necessarily power.
No,
it was just kind of wanting to get rid of the EGR, correct?
Yeah, it was. Just I have no need for it. And so I'd rather just not have the provisions for it there. I don't want the EGR valve on there, so I don't really want to have it flopping on top of the engine bay. I don't want it in the intake manifold. It's not going to function anyways. Don't tell the EPA. It's a race truck, so...
off-road use only.
Yeah. And the machining on the bottom side's pretty good. I don't have any major complaints there. And again, all this stuff's probably fine, but I'm picky and...
But I guess while you have that up there, my understanding, maybe it was just an incorrect understanding or whatever, but I thought that the ODAWGS did not have this surface on here for the donut that goes to the front cover. And I had heard that you needed to drive a Welsh plug into the front cover to block off that EGR port. But they do actually have this casting on here to be able to install the factory donut and block off the coolant flow coming out of the front cover. Can you grab the manifold? It's kind of teetering there a little bit.
And so the purpose of this video was just to show my experience with it, and of course we can update when I get the new one in and we can take a look at it. Not to defame any of the companies I dealt with or bought the intake manifold from who makes it. But I'm not familiar with other people's experience with these, and I just thought that this might be helpful for other people to see. If you are looking at buying one, just maybe give it a good look over when you get it. The company I bought it from, they get them from ODAWGS and they send them out. They don't even open the box and look at them because there's no reason for them to. If they send them out for powder coat, they send the sealed box off to powder coat, get it back sealed, send it to the customer. And so wasn't any fault of the company I bought it from by any means. But it's just to put information out there and let people know this is basically $1,000, which on one hand, we've talked about is pretty awesome that you can buy something like this and that there's someone casting these and doing all this to make something like this, and that you can buy it for $1,000 is actually pretty incredible. But at the same time, for $1,000, I want, you know,
better casting, better machine work.
yeah. And this could be a oops that slipped through. This could be somewhat normal. It's just acceptable. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know because, like we said, this is the first one that we dealt with. But I know for me personally, if I was, the quality control of ODAWG, that I would not let casting voids like that leave the door. And again, it's not to say, ODAWG's such a piece of shit. Things happen. We're all human. We make mistakes. But I guess just wanted to point out, if you do care about this kind of stuff that we're noticing here, to take a look at the one that you're getting and see if it
meets your expectations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yep, I'm gonna get this shipped off. I'm more than happy with the service I've got from the company I bought it from, and the fact that ODAWGS sent a label, said send it back, we'll send you another one. So can't complain about that at all.
And really excited to get the other one on there and try it out and see what kind of difference we can tell over the factory manifold. I've heard and you've heard that like, not that it's going to be some miracle fix or the same as putting a programmer on her, but like lower EGTs and quicker spool up, right?
Yeah, I have heard that. I'm curious to see how much of a difference it makes, especially my pickup's going to be pretty much otherwise stock. So start there, see what kind of difference that makes, and go from there. And then when I get to the point of putting one on, we could do like an installation video. These are dimensionally a little bit bigger. They're a little bit longer. I've heard of people experiencing some tight clearance with the up pipes and things like that. And so, and we can talk about the coolant bypass and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we get to that point, we can post another video if you guys want to see that. But just put information out there.
Yeah, and speaking of the dimension thing, so this is the passenger side rear of the manifold here. You can see the manifold actually comes further back than this rear bolt hole here. And I guess it is
Measure too.
Noteworthy to say that the rear two here, because they are on the end, it looks like they take the original bolt. But yeah, so if we look, we got a measuring device.
I mean, we could go to where would be the best place, in front of the alternator now or something.
I don't know. I kind of think we just turn the fucking light on. So from the very rear of the manifold, just let's call that 3/4 of an inch. Like from the rear of the manifold to that bolt hole there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we look at this manifold over here, there is actually like a little nub on the end of the manifold. But you can see like the open portion of the manifold actually drops off here. And this is really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, half inch, something like that. But the ODAWG manifold is certainly dimensionally larger than the factory manifold. So curious to see how that goes, clearance wise.
Yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Should we add fuck the EPA?
Yes.
Okay, good deal.